What defines success?
Be prepared. Every day I feel like I need to make sure I'm enhancing my education.
What happens when you get knocked down?
We did not have the tools that we needed to be a vibrant financial institution or sector going forward.
What makes some people radiate?
Take risks. Take prudent risks, but take risks. Take that leap and bet on yourself.
This is Radiate.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Radiate, the show where we interview some of the world's most successful people to find out how they worked their way to the top. This week, Robert Wolfe. He went from blocking tackles on the football field to blocking attacks at the president. Meet the man who people say can get to just about anybody in the world with his Rolodex. Wolfe spent decades in high finance, rising to the position of president of UBS Investment Bank and the CEO of its Americas Group, where he struck up a most unusual friendship with none other than the President of the United States. So since then, he's raised millions for Obama, he's been called the rare Wall Street Democrat, and he also left the world of banking to start his own firm, 32 Advisors, which of all things has started a drone business. In this conversation, Wolfe takes us through his career, how he came to be golf buddies with the president, and also what advice he would give the next generation of leaders. Here we go. So let's talk first, Robert, about something that you're really known for. I think I see it as part of your brand. It is who you are, which is your amazing Rolodex. Like, there is probably nobody that you can't get to in this world.
Well, I don't know about that, but thank you.
Almost. So how did you build that?
Listen, I think a lot of people in the business world have, large, both deep and broad Rolodexes. I think when you're in the banking industry for most of your life, 30 years, you get to meet a lot of incredibly impressive people, whether they're CEOs or global figures and leaders in different countries, and it makes it an incredible opportunity. You also, as you get more successful, you kind of dab into other things, and for me, it was politics and philanthropy, and so with different charitable organizations and foundations, you get to meet different people through that, whether it's the board or people that have same causes or people that are being honored. And then, obviously, from a political perspective, I've had the honor of being doing business outreach on behalf of the president while he was then senator and while he was president, and being on.
By the way, how'd you get that job?
Well, I think you get appointed to it, and so
But how'd you get appointed to it? Right?
Yeah, I'll go through that with you, and so. You get the ability to meet, an incredible number of people. When you're on the intersection of what I would say kind of Wall Street and K Street, where we are today, there's a lot of conversation going back and forth. So I get a lot of incoming. I make a lot of outgoing. And I would say that, you just build your network over time. And, some you don't speak to more than once every couple of years, and some you speak to often. And I think, like anything, you have to make sure that, you're not asking for favors, that you're actually calling them for a reason. And I think you have to appreciate the relationship you built.
But Robert, when did you know, hey, wait a minute, I'm actually a really good networker? Like, I'm really good at this.
Probably people wouldn't say, hey, Robert's a good networker. I think it's probably not one of the first things that comes to mind. Most people would say Robert's the type of guy you either like him or you don't like him, but at least he's a straight shooter. I think that. So people would say you're a straight shooter. Yeah, people have said that Robert would be a fastball pitcher if he played Major League Baseball and probably could not throw a curve. I think. By the way, I had no idea what that meant, but that's good. It just means straight as an arrow. I think when you are running a firm, when I was president of UBS, we were top 5 large financial institution. We had, clients all over the world, and you're in meetings all day. And I think when I was running UBS, I didn't think about, this is part of my network. Actually, it never came to mind that way. I thought. But is that a bad thing to say that? No, though? I think that when you're doing it, you kind of think like, how do I get business with this person, and how can our firm help that individual to better his business or his service or his product line? And then I think you just build a relationship with these people. So I never thought while I was in business that I was building this grand network. When you leave that type of business that has incredible amount of leverage in the system and resources like a UBS that's in 35 or 50 plus countries with thousands of people all over the world. When you leave that resource environment, then you're really on your own, and it's incredibly humbling, but it's also liberating, and it allows you to reach out to these people in a different way and how you can work together and be more collaborative and partner. And people are always looking to figure out ways to do things together, whether it's, like I said, whether it's philanthropy or other venues.
You may not call it networking, other people do.
Yep.
And they look at someone like you and they say, Robert, what is your best piece of advice on how I can learn to network? When I walk into a room and I want to seal a deal, how do I network with this person so that I can form this relationship and do that?
I think a few things. I think one, be prepared. I read Wall Street Journal, New York Times, of course look at Bloomberg, but every day I feel like I need to make sure I'm enhancing my education. And so I'm an avid reader with respect to business. So when I go into a meeting, I'm prepared. I know who I'm meeting. I try to find out as much as I can about what they like, what they don't like, how their company is done. Secondly, I try to be a good listener. And by the way, that's not easy for someone that, like me, who probably waffles that line of arrogance and confidence probably way too often. But you want to be a good listener. And I would say number 3, come with some ideas that actually makes him think, hey, he's thinking for me or she's thinking for me. And as far as the network, exchange cards. And once in a while, reach out to the person, even if it's not business driven. Hey, I know you're a fan of so-and-so. Or, hey, I remember you told me your son or daughter did something.
Yeah.
And I would always say to people, get to know, who your client is, more than just from a business perspective, and spend the time doing it. And then I think if you're a young person and just starting the business, your best network is your school, your training class. Don't give up on that. Actually, that becomes your lifeline for the next decade. When I started at Salomon Brothers, okay, the people that are in my class, even if they left Salomon Brothers or if I was in fixed income and they went into equities, those were the people I would reach out to, ask the stupid question for. Hey, what does CPI mean? Or what did this Fed statement mean? Or tell me, I'm in corporates, tell me a little about mortgages, or what happened in the equity market today. You're most comfortable not reaching out to your boss. You're most comfortable reaching out to your peer. So I would always say, make sure when you're in a training class or at school, make sure you develop real relationships where you can reach out to.
I think it's so important what you said about just reaching out to people, not always to talk about business, but just, hey, I heard your daughter is interested in, I don't know, whatever. It could be horseback riding or something, and you find an article about that. I mean, I think people forget that.
My wife laughs at me because in this new age of being able to find all this information on everyone, I'm always putting notes in my contacts. If, I'm having lunch or dinner with someone and they tell me that their daughter is going to Penn, I like to remember those things. Yeah, often, not all the time, but I like to remember some of those personal things because I know when I'm in a meeting, if someone says, how are your boys doing at Duke, or how's your wife doing at Sandy Hook Promise? Those are important that they actually listen to me.
Right.
And so, I remember, in my days on Wall Street, when I started, we probably didn't listen to anyone. And it was good to eventually learn to listen.
So, Robert, let's talk about your relationship with the president. So, how does one become friends with the president? How does that work?
Well, it has been an incredible ride and with incredible honor. Whether you are a Democrat or Republican, to be friends with the President of the United States,
the most powerful man in the world.
It's something, and I've had that good fortune. And it started in 2006, and I'll try to make this quick. I met him at a little get-together through George Soros. Probably the only other time I saw him was at the Kerry Convention in 2004 when he gave that incredible speech. 2006, there was a group of Democrats, and he was talking to them, and I didn't say a word, and believe it or not, because I was kind of a novice in the room, and I gave him my business card, and then the next day he called, and my secretary yells, "It's Barack Obama," and I get on the phone, who the F is this? No, it's Barack Obama. No, really, who is this? No, really, it's Barack Obama.
Did that really happen?
Yeah, because I told people I met with him, so I thought my buddies were busting on me, which would not be unusual, on Wall Street. And then we talked throughout, the last quarter of 2006 fairly often.
But what was he calling for? He just wanted to follow up?
Just to talk and get to know me. And then we met, had a dinner in January 2007, just the two of us at Olives. And, we really had a lot of things in common. He was an Ivy League guy. I'm an Ivy League guy. He's a sports guy. I'm a sports guy. He had 2 young kids. I had 2 young kids. His mother passed away of cancer. My dad was going through cancer. He was against the war. I was against the war. So it's one of those cards that you kind of just check off.
Yeah.
And then he asked me if I would support him for the presidency. And I was very clear that, I'm on board. And in doing so, I said that my wife and I would like to host your first New York event, which we did in March 2007. Gives you an idea how long ago that was. And we had a lot of people who just wanted to meet this guy. He was running, like 10th in the polls. Hillary was at 65%, and he was at 1%. But he just finished the Audacity of Hope book. And he had momentum. People wanted to meet him. And, it was great for, my friends, my clients, my family to all get to meet him. And then for a period of time, I was a fundraiser. Then in August 2007, when I was at that point president of UBS, we were going to be one of the first firms to show $1 billion loss. And I called him and said, I know, I've been a fundraiser for you. And I'm calling. It was his birthday. He just called my wife for her birthday. And I said, I'm just telling you, it's going to move from being about the war to all about the economy, because all of a sudden I saw how much leverage was in the system. It felt like we were going to burst this bubble.
So you flagged him on this.
I wouldn't say I flagged him, but rumor has it I was one of the ones that flagged him. And then I became his economic advisor, myself and Austin Goolsbee. At that point, and we started talking or emailing nonstop. And it continued throughout. During the Lehman weekend, I was one of the executives that was reaching out to him, and that's written about often. Calling then Senator Obama, who was negotiating with McCain about, whether he should do the debate or not. Which was funny, as Phil Gramm, the vice chairman of UBS, was working for me. He was a McCain guy, and I was an Obama guy. So it was an interesting time. And then our friendship just continued to proliferate from there, and we've obviously.
I mean, clearly the president is an extremely smart man. But were you behind the scenes and during much of this
absolutely.
time,
we were doing.
He would seek your advice on the economy, and you would be telling him this
Betty,
won't work, that won't work.
Absolutely, we were talking. Remember, this was in the depths of the beginning of the recession.
Right.
We were talking all the time about the financial markets, about GSE reform, about reg reform. And we did debate prep in my office. And so we were at UBS. So we were talking nonstop or emailing nonstop, or whether it was with his advisors, Pluff and Axelrod.
Right.
But it was for a year just continuous. And then once he became the president of the United States, I was honored with being really the Wall Street representative for the Volcker Committee, which was the president's Economic Recovery Advisory Board. And so that was a great 2-year stint. And then after that, I became an appointee of the Council of Jobs and Competitiveness.
Did you want a cabinet position?
No, I had a great job at UBS, and
you didn't want to be Treasury Secretary?
I think that listen, first of all, people don't turn down Treasury Secretary, but having a Wall Street guy going through that confirmation would not have been
at that time
something that was even thinkable. And so, to be blunt, it wasn't even a discussion. And then I had the honor of my third appointment under the president, which I'm on now, as his export counsel. So, I've remained a relationship as an outside advisor with respect to the economy and business, and I have, very strong relationships with their cabinet and administration. And so, the relationship, I think, has kind of two areas. It has the professional side, which is the business and economic side, and then the personal side, which over this 8-year period, or actually 10 years now almost, we've developed a great relationship. Our families know each other. We're in the vineyard together. We've celebrated, a lot of great events, whether it's birthdays or inaugurations together. And he's been, quite an influence on my oldest son as well, who is a public policy major at Duke. So yeah, I think that over years you build that
it's been
rapport,
rewarding for
and it's
both.
been rewarding, I hope, for both. And I think also, for me, as I try to transform from a Wall Street guy to more of a thought leader, I'm involved with discussions that I never thought I would really be involved in.
When we come back, Wolf reveals more about his relationship with Obama and gives his view on what it really takes to succeed in America. Radiate is brought to you by Zevia. Zevia is the zero-calorie, naturally sweetened soda that is really different. Why? It's got no sugar, no calories, and it's non-GMO project verified, which makes this a cleaner and, yes, healthier soda option. Zevia is available in 15 flavors like cream soda, black cherry, cola, ginger ale, and also tonic water. It's always 0 calories. I happen to like cream soda and black cherry, but you've got 15 flavors to pick from. And did I mention that they also make great mixers as well for your favorite holiday cocktail? So go to Zevia.com/podcast because Zevia is giving away thousands and thousands of free 6-packs. You heard that right. Thousands have been won, and who knows? You could come home to a surprise soda on your doorstep, right? That's pretty cool. So head to Zevia.com/podcast to get your free 6-pack. That's Zevia.com/podcast. Radiate is also brought to you by Audible.com. Are you like me? You love books, but you just never have time to read them? Well, Audible.com has the perfect solution. Get audiobooks and listen to them while you're on the go, at the gym or during your commute. Audible.com has over 180,000 audio programs from leading audiobook publishers, broadcasters, entertainers, magazine, and newspaper publishers, and also business information providers. Their app is free and it pretty much works on any device, on iPhones, iPads, Android, and Windows phones. You can also download and listen on your Kindle Fire and on over 500 MP3 players. And unlike a streaming or rental service, with Audible, you actually own your books, so you can access them at any time, anywhere, right from your smartphone. Audible.com also has what's called the Great Listen Guarantee. If you decide you don't like the book you chose, don't worry about it. You can just exchange it at any time for another title. There are no questions asked. And just for you Radiate listeners, Audible.com is offering a free 30-day trial membership. Go to audible.com/radiate today to start your free trial. And again, show your support for our show and get a free 30-day trial at audible.com/radiate. Like being called or considered a fat cat banker?
Well, it's funny. Wall Street Journal, I think, used the headline when they did the article on me, "Fat Cat with the President's Ear." And I used to say, Jesus, can you not call me fat? I mean, how about hefty or stocky or a guy with a football
or robust.
Figure? Robust. Right. I mean, yeah, actually, listen, this was the time where the rhetoric of the election between Obama and Romney were getting heated up, and there were terms of Wall Street being used from the Democratic Party, fat cat.
But is it inaccurate, though? Is it inaccurate?
Well,
aren't there fat cat bankers on Wall Street?
I actually think that Wall Street, obviously, from an income perspective, is incredibly successful. No one can take that away. But we also do some great things, okay? And I think that during that time period, because Wall Street got back in business quickly when the rest of the country was not recovering, we stood out. And we stood out because we lead often with this bravado. And we're in New York City, and we're in San Francisco, and we're in the urban areas where there's movie dinners, theaters, shows, and there's always Wall Street guys. And we seldom don't exude humility. It's kind of, we live in a business where literally we're trying to make sure they know we are the best to do business with. And then all of a sudden, we're in a situation where we have to, tame it down. And that's not something we've done that well. And so, listen, I always thought the rhetoric was politics. And when someone said, oh, he's calling you a fat cat, I joked. I get called worse things when I walk in my home. Okay, so, I mean, really, in the scheme of things, that this is just this political rhetoric, that's all it was. I do think, though, that I am one of the Wall Street guys that agreed that we needed regulation. And I was supportive of the direction Obama was going. But I actually liked it a lot better when it was his original 85-page Treasury blueprint than the tens of thousands of pages it is today. And I think he would say the same. But when I was sitting in that Lehman weekend, rightly or wrongly, okay, we did not have the tools, okay, in that weekend, okay, that we needed, okay, to be a vibrant financial institution or sector going forward. And the Fed having a systemic regulator, being the systemic regulator, so they could see both the bank holding companies and the non-bank holding companies, like a Lehman and like an AIG, was important. I was very supportive of making sure we had derivative transparency and clearing. And I also was supportive of the resolution authority with the living will to make sure we know how to wind down a global interconnected firm. So, I probably did stand out in many ways based on my views that were supportive of where the president was going. Yeah. And that's okay. I would probably, I would take that trade again. Like I say to my friends, you had one vote and he won twice.
So how is your relationship going to change with the president when he leaves office?
I'm fortunate to say that one of my closest friends happened to have been the president of the United States. And he will see my kids grow up, and I'll see his kids continue to grow up, and we'll play our golf, and I'm sure we'll be involved in some of the philanthropy that he's engaged in. My wife and I are already supporting his foundation. And so we look forward to seeing the actions he takes, and I'm sure we'll be, involved in some way.
As a partner, maybe?
I don't think that 32 Advisors is the place for him. I should be so flattered. But my feeling is he's going to do, incredible things, both him and Michelle, for not just the United States, but, really being kind of a global leader like he is today. And he's going to end his presidency at a young age. So, there will be decades of him really kind of leading a lot of the vision of this country and the international perspective.
So, Robert, you're so optimistic. I mean, you can tell, the energy just from talking to you here. You love being with people. You love your business. You're passionate. But do you ever wake up on a daily basis and you say to yourself, what the heck am I doing?
No. I will tell you,
Never.
I just don't. It's not. Listen, I'm not one of these people who are so exuberant and always peppy and high five, and that's just not me. I'm excited to have this conversation with you, and the truth is, when I'm talking about myself, I don't mind doing it. So shame on me. But I think that, first of all, I don't need an alarm clock in the morning. Okay, I wake up every morning about 5:15. It's a built-in alarm clock. The worst nights I sleep, is when I have to actually put an alarm clock on for some reason, because I'm looking at it every 5 minutes. So I like getting up in the morning. I have a routine, between working out and reading the papers I like to read and listening to some of the TV I like to listen to. And I like being up early and getting my day started. And I love that I'm taking this new challenge. I don't know if 32 Advisors will be the success story that I want to read one day. But I know that I'm going to work really hard, hire really smart people to make it a reputable firm where people will say, you know what, they're smart, their ethics are beyond reproach. Those are good people.
So you don't have that fear of failure?
Zero. I am so excited that I have the opportunity to take these challenges. I will always appreciate what Wall Street did for me, and the idea that I have been able to now try a new challenge and not ask people to fund it, but actually do it on my own. And I'm looking forward to building this 32 Advisors platform. And then the Measure platform is something I just pinched myself. It may be the most exciting thing I ever did.
The drones.
This drone operation, it will be binary. Either myself and my partners will build the nationwide platform that is the gold brand for drone operations, or we didn't execute. It's not because we're not a first mover and we don't have the right vision. And I have not been an entrepreneurial guy. So being this entrepreneur has been very exciting for me. It's a new thing. It's a new challenge. I come home and, I'm learning every day. I always say about Wall Street, the best thing about Wall Street is a free education. Every day you walk in, there's smart people you're around. You ask questions. That's continued for me. And, I'm a 53-year-old guy that's still,
Yeah, how old were you when you left UBS?
I left UBS in 2012, so I was 50.
So you're just 50. Okay.
A little over 50.
Okay. So you feel like you've got plenty of years ahead of you. I'm not saying that you don't. I'm just saying.
Let's hope so. Let's hope I have plenty of years. Listen, I think
I'm just saying you're a born-again entrepreneur now.
I am.
At the age of 50.
I have a lot of exciting things going on. I have, obviously 32 advisors, which we're going to do some exciting things in the infrastructure space. We have obviously Measure, and then I have 32 Entertainment, which is really my family office where I never had the ability to make private investments before. And I don't know if I'm picking any good ones, but I'm having some fun doing it.
But let's face it also, though, Robert. I mean, you've done financially very well. So you were able to take that risk too, right?
You know what? I have been incredibly fortunate to be able to start Wall Street during the Reagan era.
Yeah.
Okay. And I tell Paul Volcker, thank you. When I started Wall Street after graduating in 1984, people don't remember, but 95% of Wall Street associates then were grads. And the Wharton degree allowed me to join Wall Street as an undergrad. I think our training class was, 5 undergrads and 95 grads. So it gave me I'll never forget my interview process. The guy said, "What are you looking for?" And he said, "Well, I'm looking for a rocket scientist jock." I said, "Well, that's easy. I'm graduated Wharton and I played varsity football, Division I, so I know I'm one of the two." And so, listen, to be on Wall Street for, a 30-year career is something that not that many can say that they've been able to achieve. So,
yeah. Well, like
and the environment,
education.
Betty, worked for me. It was a Darwinian environment. It was, when I grew up in the 80s, it was a locker room environment, yelling and screaming and high-fiving and Minute Madness, and it worked for me. And then as I grew to become more senior in the firm where it talked more about the academic and learning side, that kind of worked for me because I was always a bit of a student of it. So, I'm one of those that can burn both ends of the candle. I can have my fun, but I also want to be a student of the business I'm in. And so I think that it's why I went to Penn. I always wanted to be a student athlete.
So last piece of advice you would give anybody, whether they're 25-year-olds and they want to start a business or they're 55 years old and they want to start a business.
I would say one is find that passion and go for it. Okay, I always tell my kids, find something you love doing and go do it. I always want to tell people also, take risks. Take prudent risks, but take risks. Take that leap and bet on yourself. And then the third thing I would say, get a great education, whatever that means, both in the classroom and outside the classroom. Be a student. Be up on current events. Read the paper. Watch certain TV programs that will make you smarter. And I tell my kids all the time, there is nothing better than an education. It will give you avenues that get you one step ahead of your competition. And I hate to say it's a competitive, tough world out there, and education matters. So, I've been fortunate to take a few risks. Some go well, some don't go well, but, I'm going to keep taking them.
So, Robert, you were saying earlier that you burned both ends of the candle. I mean, you've done so many things, right? So many things. But when you were in school, you were a football player, but you were also, at Wharton. So how do you balance all of that?
I would say learn to sleep about 5 or 6 hours a night, but
That's it?
No, actually, I can't say I'm the greatest sleeper. That's one thing I could improve on. A few things. I think for me, being a student athlete was critical. It was something I always wanted to be. So going to an Ivy League school and playing Division I football was something I wanted. And actually...
And you were running back, right?
I was a running back. Number 32. That's why we don't have 32 advisors. It's always been a good luck number for me. But I always did better in school while I was incredibly busy. So, while I was playing football were my best grades because we couldn't go out other than Saturday night. Off season, when you go out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I didn't do so as well academically.
Funny how it focuses you, right?
And I think similar when I started out at Wall Street, I was a 22-year-old punk, and would it be able to go out all night and entertain clients and do what trainees do and enjoy the discos and the nightlife of New York in the 80s, as well as be the first one in. Okay, and be the last one to leave. I always beat my boss in the morning and left after he left in the afternoon at night. And then as I got older and more senior, it became all about work-life balance. And if there's something I can tell both those who are beginning their career, those who are in the middle and end their career, find the work-life balance. Find those things you like to do outside of work and do it. For me, it was always coaching. In sports. I coached all of my kids' sports. There are times I left work at 4 o'clock. I didn't feel guilty because I'd go back and finish at home what I needed to do, but I would try to never miss my son's games. Okay, those.
What did you coach?
I coached football. I coached basketball, and I coached baseball for them. I coached all year round. And in my town, no one knew I worked on Wall Street. I had my truck, and I was Coach Wolf. And I think, but the thing for me, it gave me a good balance. It allowed me to leave work at some time during the day and do something else. So work-life balance is incredibly important, and I think everyone needs to find that.
Next week on Radiate, Hollywood's once golden boy is all grown up. Uber producer Ben Silverman, the man behind shows like The Biggest Loser and The Office, one of my favorite shows, joins us on Radiate to discuss what it's like to hit the big time before the age of 40, only to be torn down by the media, and how he's made his comeback. Thanks for joining us. I'm Betty Lou. If you liked what you heard, please review us on iTunes. Don't forget to hit that button and subscribe to our podcast. You can also find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, or on my website, betty-liu.com. See you next week on Radiate. Radiate was brought to you by Zevia. Zevia is the zero-calorie, naturally sweetened soda that is really, really different. It's got no sugar, no calories. It's non-GMO, project verified, which makes this a cleaner, healthier soda option. That's right, it's healthier. Zevia is available in 15 flavors like cream soda, black cherry, cola, ginger ale, and even tonic water. It's always 0 calories. And they're also great in your holiday cocktail as a mixer. So go to Zevia.com/podcast because Zevia is giving away thousands of free 6-packs. That's right. Thousands have been won, and who knows, you could come home to a surprise soda on your doorstep. How cool is that? Head to Zevia.com/podcast to get yours. That's Zevia.com/podcast.